Of course, it is Giving Tuesday, and we got a bit of a tradition on Giving Tuesday, catching up with our next guest, one of the best people I've gotten to know over the years, and someone who is constantly giving back. Level 82 Foundation, and he's asking for your help today. He is Super Bowl champion, former Terp, former Raven, the great Torrey Smith, with us on GCR. Torrey, it's Glenn. Always great to catch up, brother. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, man.
It's always good to hear your voice, dude. I feel like there are still people that know. Here's what they know. They know I know Tori's doing great things for the community because it's something you've been synonymous with. But maybe they still don't fully know exactly what it is that you guys are doing with Level 82 and what you've been doing with the rec center. For people that still don't know all the details of what it is that you and your wife have committed to, can you try to explain a little bit and what it is that we need to do as we try to lift you guys up here on Giving Tuesday?
Man, it's really complex, and it evolves as we go. I always say our work exists where our feet are. And whatever that is, if we see a problem, we're going to try to identify it and fix it. But at the end of the day, our root and what we do in work is trying to help people reach their full potential. So holidays and drives and things, that's awesome, right? That's about part of the experience. And we're committed to that because, there were plenty of times our holidays wouldn't have existed without the support of others. So that's something that we enjoy. But the real change really started with what we're doing at Hilton Rec Center, which is currently shut down for renovations and will become a Baltimore Ravens Boys and Girls Club, which is really exciting. But also what we have the opportunity to do with the hundreds of young student athletes that we have the ability to mentor. We do programs with our seniors, and when I say seniors, I mean like my grandmother's peers. We have programs with them at the rec center. But also, having the ability to mentor these student athletes has been very rewarding. Because sport is just a tool, and honestly, when we talked when I retired some years ago, if you would have told me this is an aspect we would have been pouring into, I would have said absolutely not. But understanding the amount of people that participate in sports, the values that come and that you learn through sports, and honestly using it as the vessel to get them in, but also you can teach financial literacy. You can teach them how to deal with failure. You can teach them how to handle success. You can teach them how to be better peers, better friends. And we've been loving that aspect of it because my wife was a former athlete at the University of Maryland and myself as well. So it's like we're able to teach the real life skills that we learned through sports and give them those values and teach them in not only through experience, through trial and error and failing, but also, watching them just learn and grow as people and therefore understanding their identity, which is something that I'm probably the most passionate about, is that you play sports. You're not an athlete, right? It's not who you are. And so helping kids identify that early has been extremely rewarding for us. And we've been able to see a lot of kids go out to schools, see schools, and there have been kids that we've seen that had zero interest in going to college, and now they are, right? Just because of being exposed to so many different things, from school tours to speakers or whatever it may be. So we've been doing a lot, and we're extremely thankful for the support that we've been able to receive.
Well, today, obviously being Giving Tuesday, you can go to Torrey's page at Torrey Smith WR, wide receiver at Torrey Smith WR. You can go right now to our Twitter account at Glenn Clark Radio because we've linked it up as well. And you can see what it is that Torrey and his wife are asking on this Giving Tuesday. And you're obviously you're putting your money where your mouth is, literally, in this process, Torrey.
I mean, she's the star of this whole thing. With my wife, her ability to organize and her ability to really just, she was a teacher. So there's a bonus there, right? Having her ability to understand what it's like. And honestly, me witnessing what it was like for her to be a teacher, I already knew it. From being a child, I tell people all the time, the most important people in my life that were not my mother, my grandmother, my immediate family were my teachers and my guidance counselors. And watching Chanel be a teacher at Dogwood Elementary over in Woodlawn, I was able to learn and see, the challenge that they've had. And honestly, part of our mission is supporting teachers as well, too. So we do whatever we can to help people really maximize it, and it's really a family affair for us.
And, of course, they have already chipped in the first $25,000 with the goal of being $50,000 to put towards Level 82 Foundation, the incredible work that you're doing. And, again, go Torrey Smith WR at Glenn Clark Radio right now, and you can click the link in order to get in. And What you guys are saying is like literally anything, even if it's $1, you guys would ask for that, right?
Absolutely. Like the pastor of the church says, man, there's no amount too big or too small. And I like to use the idea of numbers because it's social media, right? We're posting on social media and people see it. And it's like, man, I was just at the Ravens game, and if a third of the people gave $1, we would be at our goal,
There, yeah.
right? And
Yep.
that's not to take people's, hey man, you got to do it, but it's like, hey, that's just a visual for how it could be and how how people doing a little can go a long way if it's a lot,
I
right? And I think that's what our goal is, using social media, using platforms like yourself who've always been very supportive of us. Like, hey, man, if a few people just donate $1, we'll be fine, right? Anything larger, great. But the reality of it is if we can get everyone to donate $1, it doesn't take everyone to be a hero, but everyone collectively together, we can do a lot of change.
It's amazing. And you know how much it means to me that you have remained committed to this place. I've told you it 1,000,000,000 times. I'll tell you it 1,000,000,001. It means the world. We need 1,000 more of you and your wife and your all's commitment. It's very powerful to me how much you love this city and how much you're willing to give. Torrey Smith with us this morning here on GCR. All right, so let's talk a little bit of football because I could sense in one particular tweet that you sent on Sunday, like is it emotional for you watching what it is that your former teammate Justin Tucker is going through right now? Like it's awful for everybody because I like Justin. I've gotten to know him well over the years. You hate seeing this, but on the flip side, like we also all understand, like you got to get the job done. It's a tough moment right now.
Yeah, it is extremely tough, and I think it's a delicate situation. I think we're watching the greatest kicker of all time. He's struggling with the smaller stuff, right? I think earlier on he was missing the 50-plus yarders. We're like, okay, that's just because we're used to him being so great. Dudes are missing those all the time, right?
Right.
But it's like he's so great, you're not used to it. And, like, now it's led to, like, he's had a lot of misses, and that's not his norm. And so when you see someone who works as hard as they do, and it's so disciplined, it's like, man, you want to see those results that, he's working towards. And you know that he's capable of doing, even more so than that. Like, it's not like we're banking on potential here. No, he's shown it. And then you see people, oh, man, he's getting old. No, he's not.
Right.
He makes 60-plus yarders in warm-ups. You see it every day, right? Like, I'm there pregame. I watch him warm up all the time. There's nothing wrong with his leg. It's not short. That there's clearly something going on up top. And so for me being in that position before as an athlete, knowing what it's like when you're down, knowing what it's like feeling like you've lost your team games, knowing what it's like to feel like, your city isn't on your side the same, right? Like that's a tough pill to swallow, and I don't think fans really understand that because you look at it like social media. Justin probably has a picture of his son or something on there, and someone's like, dude, you need to worry about kicking the damn ball, right? Like that's just how it goes. But the reality of it is when you talk about it from a pure football perspective, yes, there's a performance side. But when you look at Justin Tucker and you're like, oh, man, we need to fix our kicking situation, well, the answer is Justin Tucker.
Right.
Because I tell you this, there is no one else out there for you. So at this point, I think he needs to know that the support exists. I personally always hit him up, let him know that he's my favorite kicker, right? And I think it's just important for the fan base to kind of rally behind him because, yes, him not making some kicks for sure have hurt a few games. But the reality of it is that we say, hey, man, Justin Tucker is to blame for 2 to 3 of these losses. Cool. That's fair. He's also responsible for about 40 other wins.
That's fair. That's
right,
fair.
by himself.
That's fair.
Right? So it's like, man, you give him a little bit of grace to get it going. And, I think by the time the playoffs hit, if he's ready to roll, I think everything will take care of itself.
I would wonder, like, if there would be an issue in the locker room where, like, guys would be like, yo, this guy's costing us games. But does being Justin Tucker outweigh that? Like, do you feel like the guys in the locker room are like, yeah, okay.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Right? It's like feeling like, man, Lamar played a bad game. Lamar lost us the game. Okay. Lamar's won you way more games than he's lost. Right? And there are a lot of people out here that can't say that. Like, think about how fans lose their minds. Lamar has to do this. He has to be more accurate. He has to run more. Whatever it may be. When Lamar doesn't play his best, okay, he's still a 2-time MVP. Very much could be number 3.
Yeah.
But Josh Allen's balling like crazy, so I'm starting to get a little bit more respect to Josh Allen there. Right? But the reality of it is this is one of the best players in the league, period. And I think with Tucker, he's the greatest of all time. He can get a little bit of grace. 2 things can be true. He needs to get his stuff together, and he can also have grace.
Can I,
And that's where I think everything lies with him.
I think it's interesting what you just brought up with Lamar and running a little bit more, right? Because everybody enjoyed him saying that his mama, cussed him out after the game on Sunday. That was pretty funny. It's a conversation I think a lot of us have had the last couple of years, right? And I do a show with Femi Amedejo, and Femi will bring up, look, Lamar had to make a decision about longevity, not because of the big hits, because we all know he doesn't take those big hits, but because the simple wear and tear of the totality of hits. And that was an interesting thought to me, but I think we're all kind of seeing the same thing. Like, it looks like there are running lanes there. In no ways is anybody really complaining or suggesting that there's a problem with Lamar Jackson because, my God, he's Lamar Jackson. But is there a place where you'd say, hey, you might have to get back to running a little bit more, or take some of those lanes that are being given to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just take the game for what they are, right? The only time it comes to my mind when I think about Lamar and running is if he forces the ball like down the field late or he's throwing it away. And it's like, dang, if you don't have a spy, and even if he does, they
Right.
can't really touch him,
Right. You're Lamar
Those are the
Jackson.
only times. But to me, I don't think you can ever knock a guy who's developed and is so comfortable in the pocket from making plays because it works both sides, right? Like, yes, he's phenomenal running the ball. Like, I'm not a guy that, like, I'll use the example of Coach Harbaugh going for it and fourth and one in his own territory.
Yeah.
Like, if it would have failed, I still would have been like, I respect it either way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same way I feel with Lamar. Like, Lamar, sure, he can run a little bit more, but Lamar's also made some big-time pass plays where he's extending plays. Like, look, I mean, Zay had a 40-yard game early in the game last week because Lamar's extending a play, right? So it's like, you got to put yourself in the shoes of understand, like, they're both working. I'm not going to lose my mind because he's not running as much as he used to because he's comfortable. That's a sign of growth. But the reality of it is he can take off like he showed in that last drive. And when nothing's there, and now he's picking up 30, 40 yards because he's Lamar Jackson.
Right. He's one of one. Just another couple of minutes here with Torrey Smith on Giving Tuesday. Again, please go to our Twitter account or his Twitter account. See how you can make a difference for Level 82. I'm going to hop in as always because I believe in it. I hope you will as well. Torrey, if I could, because you would be the perfect person for this perspective. We saw some emotions on Sunday as the offense wasn't clicking in the second half, and particularly Zay Flowers was demonstrative in his emotions, and I think everybody in this town is a Zay Flowers fan. I wonder if you could explain, is that something that teams want? Like, everybody always say, like, oh, you don't want guys to be, thinking about themselves, but do you want that type of passion, that type of if things aren't going well, you want to see guys pissed off about it and not like, whatever, who cares?
That's a tough one, right?
Okay.
And I say that because you don't know how many games or times I've been absolutely pissed on the field.
Sure.
But I'm not gonna let everyone else know it.
Okay.
Right? And I think, and when I say everyone else, I'm mainly talking to people like yourself and myself now on the opposite side of the aisle.
Right.
Like, it's okay for your team to know that you're upset or things aren't going the way it is, right? But it's another thing when it becomes a distraction from public perception. As a player, I've kind of always felt like, I never want to throw anyone under a bus because I know there's going to be a time where I want that same kind of grace.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of just how I moved about it. But to me, it's like, passion is a part of it. People work their tails off, and like, you want the opportunity to help. Like, you don't really, if you ever notice, the trend is I don't know many people that are passionate and complaining when their team is winning.
Fair.
Right?
Life is
It
good.
only happens when It only happens when you're failing, right? And the reason for that is I feel like I can do something to help us win, or we're missing opportunities and we're not playing the way we're supposed to play. So I think it's a fine line, right? You don't want to have things become like, you respect passion, you understand it, but at the same time, it's like you never want to throw somebody under the bus and feel like you throw somebody under the bus, because whether you do or not, I've learned, and I see it more and more on the opposite side of the aisle. So respect to the media guys like yourself.
Yeah.
I see it completely different on the other side watching the game. If you're in the stadium and you're looking, or even if you're watching TV, if I'm wide open as a receiver and you miss me and I don't say anything, it oftentimes doesn't get any attention. But if I give an attitude or I show bad body language, now everyone's going to dive into it. And now that doesn't say anything but, hey, man, my quarterback can't read coverages,
That's
right?
really
he's missing throws, right? And I think that's the tough part as an athlete in general.
It's so funny you say that, right? Because obviously, as you know, I'm not an athlete. I was extraordinarily low level in my athletic career. But like I don't know. I have this weird thing where as long as it's not demonstrative in somebody's face or throwing somebody under the bus, I don't know that it's ever bothered me that people like I kind of like the idea that you're pissed off too. It's a weird thing, right? And like maybe that's just the difference in and you're an athlete and you're sensitive to the way that guys like me overanalyze things, and I don't know, it's never bothered me that someone be mad. I want you to be mad, right? Like I want you to show them. Although that said,
But
of
it's a
course,
fine line, though,
yeah,
right? Like, think about it. Lamar's going to have to answer questions, and
yep,
Zay specifically is going to have to answer questions about why he was mad that Lamar didn't see him wide open.
it's true, it's
That
true,
happens on every drive.
it's
You can
true.
find a receiver who's highly upset. He's open every someone's open every drive where the quarterback missed him and it would have been a touchdown, right? Every single drive, you can
Yep,
find one.
yep,
I promise you.
yep.
But then we don't talk about it every single time because there's normally not a major reaction that the attention gets drawn to it, right? And so I think that's the fine line in terms of when it comes to protecting your guys. And again, I've been there. Like, I'm not saying that from a judgmental perspective of day. Like, I know for sure there's been a couple times in my career where like you're so caught up in it. You're like, I can remember one specifically in San Francisco. Like, they were struggling throwing the ball to me in general, and then I just remember Cap. I had this guy beat, and I had him whooped, and he threw it short, and like I had him probably beat by 4 or 5 yards. He throws it short, back shoulder, and I didn't even have a chance to touch the ball.
Mm.
Like, it was so far out of bounds and short that it wasn't even close, and I just was pissed and just walked straight to the seat, straight to the bench. Like, my reaction was probably like a robot. Like, you spin, realize you can't catch it, and my body was started like prancing right to the sideline and sat straight down. Right? And so for that couple of seconds that the camera's on you, right, I can acknowledge then and now, like, I was just pissed off in the moment, but then it drew so much attention to our quarterback who was struggling at the time. Right? And that's a negative thing for the team to carry. Because now I'm dealing with questions afterwards like, hey, you're normally a very calm guy. Why were you so upset that he missed you when you were winning by 5 yards? Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like it just leads to negative distractions, and you don't want your guys that you love and care about to have to deal with it. So it's just about having that passion, but controlling your emotions.
If you go right now to level82.org, up at the top of the page, there's a link for hashtag Giving Tuesday that you can click on. And, of course, as I mentioned, you can go to the Torrey's Twitter account. You can go to our Twitter account. Please get in anything you can give this Giving Tuesday to lift up what it is that Torrey and Chanel and their family have committed to in our city. And a reminder, Torrey's not from here, but this is how much he cares about our city. And I can only say it so many times. How much that means to me, and I truly appreciate it. Torrey, always appreciative of you and the time that you take and how much you care about this community. Looking forward to seeing you again here real soon. Appreciate you spending time with us this morning, man. Very happy holidays to you and to your family.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.